In 1962, Madeleine Higgs told the Crown in Ali Rooms that it was generally expected that a woman would leave her legal career behind when she married or started a family. In her time, she was a pioneer who changed the perception of the heights women could reach in law. Nearly 60 years later, women occupy key legal roles all over the world. There are more women in partner positions across the top law firms in Nigeria than there have ever been in history. Yet, disparities in favor of men still exist in the profession, particularly in litigation. The legal profession is an extremely demanding career path. Accounts of lawyers spending long hours in the office and even working overnight is not uncommon. Lawyers must continuously stay on top of a revolving door of client deadlines and office responsibilities, whilst clinging to some semblance of work-life balance. For a woman, this reality of the profession is often in direct conflict with any dreams of raising children. The societal responsibility, shaped by culture and biology, oftentimes sees them assume the role of primary caretaker, which could also be described as a full-time job. Looking at the history of women in practice, it is clear that there is a distinct level at which many women disappear from the profession, and this correlates with childbirth. Mrs. Dorothy Ufot, by every metric, has navigated this quagmire excellently. She was conferred the rank of Senior Advocate of Nigeria in 2009. She was African Arbitrator of 2020, and she's a Fellow of the Chartered Institute of Arbitrators, UK. She has scaled the summit of the profession and has raised 2 highly successful children.
Everything I have achieved as a married woman. So the notion that you have to be single to rise to the top of the legal profession or any career, I think many of us have debunked that. For you to be successful, not just in the legal profession, in any profession, as a career woman, as a successful mother, as a successful wife, you've got to be prepared to make a lot of sacrifice. You've got to be prepared to prioritize your time. So there's no time, really not much time, hanging out with the girls. There's really not much time going out to all the parties in town. I go to parties, but I go with my husband. But I select where I go because as someone who started out in litigation, it's very challenging. Litigation, even a lot of men cannot do litigation, not to talk of a woman. So you must be prepared to make the sacrifice. You must be lucky to have a supporting spouse. You must be focused because there are going to be challenges. So you must build confidence, you must build trust. No man will support what he does not understand. No man will support what he doesn't trust. I know that some men, regardless of what you do, some men are jealous, some men are not, supportive, they think, but it's how you start. So I tell young girls now, particularly those who have not married, what is your ambition? You must identify your ambition now. So if your ambition is to be a corporate woman, and these are all the indices that you require, then you must carefully choose your spouse. You must know that your spouse is someone who will support your progress. So if you go and marry a typical traditional man who wants his wife to be there when he's eating, who wants his wife to be the one to cook his meal, you're not going to make it. So you are already entering a one-chance boss if you marry such a person. So you would have to choose. Either you choose the man or you choose your career.
We spoke to the managing partner and founder of Sefton Frost, Mrs. Olayemi Anyanechi. and she seemed to be on the same page with Mrs. Ufot in this regard.
I have two sons. They're grown up now. I believe the key for me, I worked so hard when they were growing up, was that I had help. I think I'll just say like that, I had help. So I had a very supportive husband. He was there every step of the way. There were times when I had to work really, really late, and I would worry about leaving my kids, but he would always tell me, oh, come on, go ahead, don't worry, I'm here. And because I knew he was also a hands-on father, he was very into his children. We were both hands-on parents. It wasn't the kind of family whereby the mother was meant to take care of the children, where we were both parents in that sense of the way. So I could go to work knowing that somebody had them, who was looking after them. So my advice to young ladies that want to have a career and want to have a family is that just make the right choices. Okay, so when you are going out looking for a spouse, look for a man that will support your career. People are who they are. There's really no point marrying somebody that feels one way and you want them to do. I don't go out looking for people. When I get to meet people, I look at them at their very worst. And I say, okay, can I live with this worst? Because they may really never change. So don't bother looking for a man that wants a wife that's always at home and you want a career. Those two objectives just don't align. So the key for me was that I had help. I didn't do it by myself, really.
Mrs. Ufot and Mrs. Anyanechi's emphasis on picking the right partner seemed to underpin their success on juggling raising a family and scaling the summit of the profession. But given the current marital plights of career-driven women in Nigeria, perhaps fortune represents a bigger role in this regard. Just based on observable data, not all women will have partners of this mold, and in a country where the family dynamic is largely traditional, it begs the question of whether it is necessary for a woman to have a supportive husband to reach the top of the profession. Of transactional practice and advocacy, women overwhelmingly have a preference for the former, and this is noticeable from an early stage. There are several reasons that lead women to giving up on litigation in Nigeria. Dangers of travel. Litigation usually involves travel to sometimes remote areas of the country, and senior lawyers are less willing to assign these tasks to young women, especially given the inherent risks of travel in Nigeria. The physical rigor of advocacy in Nigeria is also a deterrent to young female lawyers. Congested courtrooms, standing for hours, and continuous mobility are traits of litigation that make it unattractive to women. More difficult.
Litigation is tougher. I can tell you because I do both. Litigation is tougher. You see, commercial work, you have to be careful. The danger I see in commercial work, I'm not saying is cheap. You also have to rack your brain, because today you see different kinds of commercial transactions and you have to originate agreements to cover, whatever they are doing. But litigation, litigation is tough. I don't want to scare those who will, eventually watch this, but I can tell you, litigation is tough. What my husband says is that I have a passion for it. So while some people will see it as tough, I see it as, I'm having fun. And that is what has sustained me. So when I have a case, for instance, it's a tough case. When I've spent my time preparing the case, and I'm looking forward to how I'm going to mess up the other lawyer in court, that is my excitement. But that excitement doesn't come from lack of preparation. I have prepared it. I have found answers. And I was trained to prepare my case and prepare my opponent's case. For instance, yes, if the other, this is what I am taking to court, but if the other lawyer is as good as me, is he just going to fold his hands looking at me? What will he say? So I will figure out what he will say if he understands the case. And I will bring out the cases that I think, if he understands the case, he will bring out in court. And I go to court with them. So he comes up and says, my lord, I refer to boo, 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 boo. I allow him to finish. And I'll say, my Lord, that case he has cited has nothing to do, is not on all fours with this case. The facts of this case is different. And what he's saying is not what the Supreme Court or the Court of Appeal, decided. My Lord, this is what he says you bring out. And people are shocked. You have gone the extra mile to prepare for your case. So it's tough.
The title of Senior Advocate of Nigeria is a delineation given to outstanding lawyers who have demonstrated excellence in their practice of the profession. It is the apex honor a lawyer can receive in Nigeria, and is usually a passport to higher earnings. In 1981, Chief Mrs. Folake Solanke was conferred the first female SAN in Nigerian history, an event that was supposed to trigger a deluge of women also taking up the coveted silk. In 2020, the Supreme Court appointed 72 new SANs. Of the 72 SANs that were called, only 3 were women. Currently, women make up about 4% of the total number of SANs in Nigeria. Unsurprisingly, this is a stark departure from the gender distribution at law school, and while this problem isn't specific to Nigeria, it certainly is more pronounced here.
You see, people have mentioned the disparity between the number of SANs we have, female and male. I'm not surprised. And that disparity will continue. Because if you look at what it takes to become a SAN, it's tough, it's tedious. Very few women, you have to be determined. Because you're not going to lower standards for women because you are a woman. The standards cut across. So if you know you want to be SAN as an example, you must be prepared to put in the work.
Although some lawyers will re-echo the sentiments of Mrs. Ufot, many have suggested that the issue is systemic and rooted in gender-based stereotype. During a focus group meeting conducted by the legal business team, participants seemed to think that women weren't assigned to the type of cases that qualify one for SAN simply because the men believed that they weren't technically proficient enough. And this in turn impacts their ability to meet the expected criteria. If this theory holds true, proponents have called for an adaptation of the senior advocate criteria to achieve a more balanced gender distribution, in the same way affirmative action was used for minorities working in the Western world. We hear of the term finders, minders, and grinders, a term coined over a decade ago by management guru David Master and by John Grisham in his popular novels. Finders are coveted as the rainmakers of a firm, and this involves networking. The legal profession is about as much as networking as it is actual legal work. The groundwork for networking most times will be at social events, parties, weddings, bars. More times than not, your big client is at a social venue. For men, this is fairly easy to navigate. A few drinks and common interests is enough to spark the beginning of a relationship that could bear professional fruits. For women, oftentimes this can go in a different direction, which, irrespective of environment, can bring less than professional elements into the foray. On this issue, Mrs. Ufot shares some compelling advice from her own experiences.
In my experience, people do business only with their friends, good business. So if you're not friendly with somebody, how is he going to give you a 10 million naira brief? Yes, you are technically competent. You're not the only one who is technically competent. I know people do business with their friends. Put competence on the table. Any opportunity you have to do any work, go the extra mile. If that guy starts seeing you from a professional point of view to the top, again, when we talk about trust, I'll tell you where women find it most challenging, and I'll tell you how I crossed that hurdle. So I keep on emphasizing the influence or the impact of the spouse. You see, the big deals sometimes are not deals that cut long and short in the office. The MD of a bank has a habit. Every 1st January, he throws a party, a big party in his house. You are a woman. All the other men that are doing big deals in the bank are going to be there. How do you get there as a woman? Because you get there, you see your colleagues that you see on the legal department floor. You people are sitting down there, the MD has instructed, give it to this person. How do you get to that point? If you cannot go to that party in the MD's house, then I'm sorry, you have not started. But the MD has a wife. How do you walk into the MD's house with his wife there? Who are you? Where are you coming from? You know what I do? I tell my husband, come, let us go. You understand what I'm trying to say? Come, let us go. Because I won't sit here and say I'm a woman, and people are digging deep. And I'm saying, oh, the woman will not. You have to befriend the woman. You must find your way around it.
In giving some advice on this issue, Mrs. Anyanechi believes that things should be kept strictly professional at all times.
Well, even as a young lawyer, even as a student, I have always felt that the woman's key to success is just hard work and being very, very, very good at what you are. And I have found that once you put your femininity there as a negotiating tool, you will hardly ever catch up. So I don't go there at all. So when I come to a negotiating room, I want you to forget that I'm a woman. I want you to forget that, I just want you to stay a lawyer. And that's just the image I project. But then I work slightly harder. So I come to a meeting. I've done all my homework. I have a lot of the answers because I know that it's difficult. It takes time. And people just expect women not to be as good as men. So for you to be better than the man, and I've been to meetings sometimes and people are like, you know what's she doing there? I remember as a very young lawyer, I had been sent to a meeting by my boss then, and I entered, and I wasn't very big, I was quite small. And everybody wondered that because it was a top level meeting, what is she doing here? And I could see all of them asking. But the moment I took my seat, I started talking, I could see that the looks on their faces changed. They were comfortable because I was making a lot of sense. So my advice to young women would be like, don't even use your femininity at all, because it's such an old trait. It's old and it's jaded and everybody knows what it's about. What you need to use is your intellect because women are very smart. Apart from being smart, we have this ability to multitask. We can juggle a lot of things, at the same time. We just have some gifts that men do not have. So why not use those gifts instead? I don't think women should use your femininity. I think it's the worst thing that you can use. I think you need to go to a meeting, knowing your onions, knowing what you're talking about, having done your own work. And if you do that consistently, people will respect you for it. I bear testimony to that. I think Nigerians may expect you to be one way, but over time you show them who they are. They come to accept that and they're fine with it. So my advice to young ladies, when you're going to work, just leave your femininity at home. Come and just be a lawyer. That's all you need to be. Because I think in the workspace, once you open that door, you really don't know where it's going to end. And I've had to advise a young girl before. I said, don't pretend you don't know what they're doing. Don't pretend. Sometimes women don't understand. They're like, okay, is he flirting with me? Am I the one thinking he's flirting with me? If I raise the issue, would they think? If you think he's flirting with you, he is. So just shut it down. Shut it down very, very hard. I don't entertain it, not at all.
Young women have noted that they often feel like they have to leverage their femininity to secure clients during negotiations. In a survey by Business Day, we received numerous accounts of less than professional etiquette by potential clients. Many women feeling like they had to play along in some form out of fear that they might fail to secure the client. The board is somewhat split in this issue. While some feel their femininity gives them an edge, others vehemently oppose anything not strictly professional. So, what is the correct approach? Experienced women eventually learn how to toe the line masterfully, but when starting out, the general consensus is that it's best to always keep it professional.
Okay. So let me tell you what I've noticed. So, and I still notice it every day. So you have a woman and a man in the meeting, or you hire a woman and a man. The woman just almost automatically lets the man do all the talking. So I don't know whether it's the way we've been brought up. So we kind of just depart to men. It's a default. And so when you're in a meeting, the chances are everybody thinks the man is smarter than you because, hey, I'm sorry, but men like to talk, okay? You go to a meeting, a woman is going to say everything she wants to say in one sentence, a man is going to use 10. I think it's just the upbringing. And so it's difficult to see that the women know what they're talking about. And I've also seen a woman say something and nobody listens. And the man repeats the same thing and everybody nods. It happens to me even till today. So people are just, there's this blind spot and people think, if a woman is saying it, it probably doesn't really make a lot of sense. When a man says the same thing, even though it's borrowed from what the woman has said, the way they react is totally different. So it is a prejudice that we've been fighting and we need to keep fighting it. I wouldn't say women are not as technical because in my experience, and if you go to the school today, when you take a smart girl and you take a smart boy, 8 times out of 10, now men, please correct me if I'm wrong, but when you take a smart boy and a smart girl, 8 times out of 10, the smart girl is the smarter. It may be because men are more focused, the men have other things they think about, but the reality is when you take like for life, the girl tends to be the smarter. So it's then a bit difficult to say a girl that may be predisposed to smartness is not as technical as men. I get that feeling sometimes, but I just don't let it bother me because if you let people know, if you keep doing the same thing at the same time, and maybe somebody meets you afresh and they think you're not technical, I guess when they know you well enough. But don't forget to tell them that, hey, I am technical, just in case they're not sure. Because women we don't own ourselves enough. A man has no qualms at all bragging, if I want to use that word, okay? But women, we've been brought to be humble, we've been brought to be soft-spoken, to be discreet. There are times when you need to tell someone, I am smart. Maybe because he's not listening, you just have to tell him that I am smart. But when you say that kind of thing, they have to back it up with action. So I think women they need to be a bit more pushy. They need to be a bit more assertive and not let people push them to the back things. It takes a lot of work, but we just need to try a bit harder to get where we want to be.
In a gender bias survey conducted by Legal Business, 70% of the women felt that the same information said by a man and by a woman is heard differently. We attach our own biases to the actual meaning, and in male-dominated professions, the effect of bias is exaggerated because women are rare and therefore unusual. The rationale behind this is that a woman can say something and have it overlooked, but when a man says the same thing, it all of a sudden becomes this fantastic idea. To offshoot issues like this, many of the top female professionals have had to develop stern and Amazonian demeanors to be taken seriously. Women have made exceptional progress in the legal profession since the days of Chief Mrs. Folake Sholanke. However, like in most other occupations, gender discrimination is a major concern among legal professionals. As a consequence of this prejudice, women have had to face considerable obstacles such as sexual harassment, work-life balance, and damaging stereotypes. Though the legal profession has witnessed a few sweeping changes over time, there's still a lot more left to do to alleviate the challenges women face in the Nigerian legal profession.